Alright, so it is day 28 of the Zombie Hunter build. 28 days later, appropriately titled for the Zombie Hunter. So today what I'm going to be doing is I have a brief window where it's not going to be raining. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the truck out, wash it down again, and then I'm going to hit it up with 120 grit sandpaper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that random hand sander that I have and get the whole thing down, scuffed up real nice so I have a good surface for the Monstaliner to adhere to. I'll use that, and then I'll also do it by hand with just wet sanding it with 120 and a block. And that way I'll be able to get into every little, I can't have any glossy surfaces on the truck. So that means that every little piece has to be nice and sanded down. So once I do that, then it's going to be another wash with the trisodium phosphate, clean it all up, make sure there isn't any grease on it. Then I'm going to wipe it down with mech to, give it a second coating of insurance that there's no grease on the truck. And then I'm going to tape it up, probably give it another coat, another wipe down with mech, and then it'll be ready for rolling. All right, so I'm going to roll the Monstaliner later tonight and into the AM, and then so it'll probably, I don't know how long it's going to take to cure, just because of the humidity issues that we had, and it's going to be pretty warm. So it might be a lot quicker than I anticipate. But what I'll do is I'll start, maybe in the early AM, like 3, 4 in the morning, begin the process, and then let it cure for a while, and then put on that second coat. So all the green should be on by tomorrow morning, and that'll give it a little bit of time to kind of cure and settle, and then harden up a little bit. I'm not supposed to drive it for, I think, 7 days. You can start using it for regular use, but if I coat it today, let it sit for a day, and then I'll bring it outside, and it can sit the rest of the time outside and finish the process. So it's time to get to work. Whoever owned this truck before me had these little Mercedes emblems bolted into the door, right? So they had a little hole in the door, and they had these, put in there with a little nut in the back. Personally, I think it looked kind of tacky, so I was planning on getting rid of it. But then when I was going to coat it with Monstaliner, I was thinking, it might look kind of cool if it was all uniform and it was all, if this was coated in Monstaliner as well into the door. It kind of looked like kind of like a relief, or like embossed kind of, like part of the door, right? But now the more I think about it, I'm just worried that it's going to start pulling or whatever. I'd rather not have too many attachments, like separate pieces coated in Monstaliner on the truck. So what I might end up doing, or what I probably will likely be doing, is you know, patching that in, putting in some weld in there. So that means I have to go pick up my welder, and then once I'm done, I guess, sanding down the rest of the truck, then I'm going to go get my welder and fill that hole in with weld, and then, you know, clean it up and cover it up. I think it'll look better. It'll look more clean without it. It'll look a lot less tacky. I mean, this is like super 1970s to, you know, or 80s to put all that extra junk on the side of the truck. I hate, you know, I like the clean looks, and I like when there's, you know, minimal badging on a truck. So especially this truck. So I'm going to get rid of that and, you know, fill it in. So continue with the sanding. You can see how it's turning out. I haven't rinsed it off yet, but it's, you know, it's a dull finish now. So I'm going to continue with that and have it entirely dull so I can have a good surface to have the Monstaliner coat to. Well, the debate as to whether I'm going to keep these little side emblems or not has been settled, and it was physics who did the, who was the final decision. That was the emblem on the passenger side. So what ended up happening was I took the nut off the back of it, and instead of like the driver's side, it just came out freely, it was super tight in there. So started banging on it with a hammer in the back, and it wasn't budging. So then I took the pry end of the hammer and started gently nudging it out, and it just snapped. So I just ended up, you know, prying it out forcefully, and you know, I wasn't a fan of them anyway. It reminded me of, you know, something you find at like AutoZone in the once you're at the checkout counter, when you see all the little plastic crap and stuff like that. You know, it just looked super cheap and looked tacky. You know, you'll see it a lot, like in the 80s especially. You know, you find like guys who have like a, you know, an old S-Class or an E-Class, and they have like a badge. You know, they have the one on the hood. They'll have a hood badge, then they have the grill badge, and they got badges all over the sides and all this crap, you know, like chrome everything, you know. I wasn't a fan of it. So that's it. I'm gonna weld in a little hole in there, you know, weld in that little hole and do a little bit more body work. You know, as you're doing this at this stage of the process, you know, I'm sanding, I'm going over every little piece, and you notice a lot of those small little imperfections. So there's a little bit of body work and stuff that I still want to do before I roll it. But for the most part, it's going to be sanded down entirely. The roof hasn't been sanded yet, but you can see parts that I missed as well. Like it's hazy, you know, so it's a dull finish, and that's what I'm going for. I need the entire truck to have that dull finish, but then there's areas that still have, you know, a glossy finish, and so this needs to be addressed with a by hand. You know, I'm not going to use the random orbital sander for that. I'm going to go in there and get every little fine little detail of the truck with 220, but by hand, wet sand it with hand. you know, it still needs to be washed down, so it has you know, like dust on it. It's just like a green dust, but you can see like the areas again, like here. This is glossy still, so I need to hit all that up. You know, and the days, it's pretty good right now, but it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna start raining again. So I want to make sure that I get this all done and dry it off so I can see what's glossy and what's not. So once it's wet, you can't tell what's what. So I'm gonna continue with this, finish it up, and then I have to go grab my welder from the other location, weld in these little pieces here, and then do a little bit more body work. There's some spots that I wanted to kind of fix up. And then it'll just be a matter of washing it a few times, you know, going over it, use the scuff pad some more, and then in the real tight spots, like inside the around the gasket and the windows and stuff, and then, you know, clean it up and pull it in for the night, and then I'll tape it up in here, and I don't have to worry about it getting, you know, dirty or anything like that. And then one more time, I'm going to go over it with, you know, mech. Well, actually, first I'm going to go over it with some mech, wipe it all down, then go over it with a tack cloth, and then start rolling. So I'll start late tonight, or very early in the morning, you know, like maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, and then continue with that. That'll give me ample time for it to cure between coats. You know, and then 2 coats and it'll be done. So it'll be done by probably mid-morning, hopefully. So that's it. Back to work. For the past 37 years, everything on this truck has been kind of like put together with anything that was handy or available in the garage, it seems like. So this marker light on the side, I removed the one on the other side. I didn't have any problems with it. It was just a regular Phillips head holding it in. But the other one, it wasn't a Phillips, it was like a square. And I didn't have a single bit that fit that or matched it. And on top of that, it was rusted to hell. So I tried tapping it with I tried using everything I had, and I tried drilling into it with a drill, and it still won't come out. So I'm gonna have to just cut the screw, you know, at the point right here, and just cut it off. Alright, so I broke the damn thing, which means that I need to buy replacement turn signal indicators, because you know what? There is a wire in there. That one has a wire, and the other one does. It was just, you know, somewhere inside the body panel. So, okay, well, you know, so far in the truck, I think I have like $800 invested or something. So, you know, I'll just have to end up buying some parts for it. You know, and if I'm replacing those, I don't know if I should replace the front marker light, the front turn signal lights too. We'll see. Man, I wish that didn't happen, but what are you gonna do? One little trick, if you have any holes in the sheet metal, and you know, places where trim pieces go or whatever, if I'm applying Monstaliner or paint, I picked up a bunch of these, like 80 of these for like 13 bucks, something like that, from Home Depot, little earplugs. You squeeze them down, and then they expand and end up plugging up any holes. So that way I won't get Monstaliner over the holes and conceal anything. It'll just be, you know, with these, and then when it's a little bit tacky, just pop them out, and then it's good. You still have your holes. So the whole truck is sanded down with 180. I use 180 on it. I think that's what Monstaliner recommended. So I sanded it all down with 180. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash it. And I'm going to use the trisodium phosphate. Wash it with that. Clean up, you know, and then let it dry. And then I can see what else needs to be scuffed up. I'm sure that I missed parts of it. So here's the roof. It's all scuffed up. You can see there's a green dust everywhere. So now what I have to do is wash this all off, you know, clean it all up, and then let that dry. Whatever's dull is good. Whatever's shiny needs to be touched up again. Alright, so since I removed this emblem, I have a hole here that needs to be plugged in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand this down to bare metal, so that way I have a nice contact area for my negative. And then steel weld does not adhere or mix or weld to brass. So I have a piece of brass here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go behind here and just fill in the hole with the brass, and then weld into here, and in theory it should leave a nice little plug. Worst case scenario is I weld to this, I'm going to have a big brass thing sticking out of the inside of the door. So I hope that doesn't happen. Let's cross our fingers and let's see what happens. Alright, so I used duct tape to stick this into that spot, and hopefully it'll hold. That's kind of sketchy. Alright, so you can see now I got that brass peeking through there. So in theory, if I just put a bunch of weld here, it won't stick to the brass, but it'll stick to the surrounding steel. I don't know if it's gonna work, but let's give it a shot. Alright, so here's the weld. The orbital sander has a hard time getting into all the little tight spaces. So what I have here is a 3M kind of squishy, spongy sanding block. And so I'm using that to get into all like the little spaces around the truck, like right up into the gaskets here. And then also into like sections like in here, you know, just to make sure that everything's sanded down. The problem now is that I have dust again on the truck. So what I will probably do is just wash it in here, and I'll just use a spray bottle, you know, wash everything down. I gotta go pick up some more trisodium phosphate. You know, I could use dish soap, but you know, that really works better, and it's you know, doesn't have any additional chemicals and stuff inside it that are kind of it's safer for when I want to roll the Monstaliner on. You know, there's no lotions, there's no anything like that, no fragrances, no anything that could possibly cause issues with adhesion of the Monstaliner. So I'm going to finish sanding this thing down, and then I still have, where are they? I still have to do these. I put them off yesterday because I was busy with the rest of the truck, and so I had to sand these down and then wash them and sand them down as well. So that's why I have these here. So okay, so that means I don't know if I'll get to rolling it within the next, you know, I plan on taping it and having it done early, but I'll keep on working on it. You know, the thing is, prep is the most important. You know, rolling it is a lot more simple. So I'd rather make sure that I have the entire truck perfectly prepped. I invested so much time and effort into just doing the body work on it. So, you know, I don't want to skip a step, or I don't want to rush things at this point. So I'm going to make sure that everything is sanded down beautifully and then washed and cleaned, and the surface is perfect for rolling Monstaliner so that it'll stick forever. All right, back to work. Also, I got a mask, a respirator, because when you're rolling the Monstaliner, it's really toxic. So I don't want to breathe that in. I've been breathing in dust and stuff, so you know, I've been silly in doing so. It's just, I just find these uncomfortable, you know. So when you're blowing your nose at night or coughing, and you know, pieces of dusty paint and stuff are coming out, and you see it's all green, then you know, it's a good idea to wear one of these. So trying to get it inside this little channel right here. There's like a lot of little grooves on the truck. It's a lot of little grooves on the truck. So I'm trying to get it inside all of those and make sure I don't want any lifting to happen in those spots. Alright, so the truck is all sanded down. You can see it's all scuffed up. There aren't any shiny spots left on it. I use a combination of 120 block and 180 discs on the orbital sander. You know, it turned out nice. Now it's just a matter of masking off, you know, whatever I don't want to get covered in Monstaliner, coating or wiping it down with mech, because I have to ensure that there aren't any like body oils from fingerprints or anything like that on there. There isn't any wax left on it, that's for sure. But so I just have to mask it off and it's ready for rolling. Alright, so the truck is all wiped down with mech, as are the fenders. So I got the fenders here, and everything's wiped down, taped up. It's ready for a Monstaliner coating. So here we have the first gallon, okay? So, let's see. So here's the gallon of the actual bed liner. This is the catalyst, so this gets it going. And here's the tint, all right, Sans Panties. And then there's my various equipment to get it going. So now what I need to do is mix it all up, but let me just check the instructions again. All right, mix color with tintable Monstaliner. So I add the color in first. Okay, and I mix that into the gallon. Okay, so I mix that into the gallon. Wash excess colors from can. 1 ounce of mech or acetone. Empty can from Monster Shades concentrate. I wish I had a measuring cup. I don't know. I don't have a one ounce. I don't know how much that is. I'll just put a little bit in there, I guess. And then mix the catalyst, all that into a bucket. So I pour that stuff into a bucket with the catalyst and mix all that together. Then I pour it all back into the can. Okay. Do not leave it in plastic pail. Got it. Use extra coating in mixing pail to start brushing corners, edges, and project. Smart idea. Okay, so that could serve that. So whatever is lining the can is what I'm going to use with the brush and get all the fine details first. So what I'm going to do, let me think of a game plan. Once I get the, so what I'll do is I'll lift this hood, and so I can get inside there in that little groove. You know, I'll use that. I'll use the paint, I guess, to get inside here, inside the gutters, and all the little tight spots. You know, that should probably cover the excess. That'll probably be all the material from that bucket will probably be able to coat that stuff. And then after that, start using that, put it in the pail, and start rolling it. All right, so time to get to work, and time to start mixing my Monstaliner. All right, so I have to mix this for 2 minutes, scrape the sides, and then mix it for another minute, and then I have to add the tint. So let's set the timer. Alright, so I applied the first coat of Monstaliner. I'm pretty happy with the results. So, you know, it's my first time applying this stuff, and so some of it's a little bit sloppy. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. Maybe wait for it to dry, use a razor to... one thing I noticed, if you look here, I have little gnats that died in the Monstaliner. So I'm going to have to try to pull those out somehow. And then recoat over them. I don't know. So I guess it is a zombie hunter. Hopefully they, you know, they don't resurrect. But you know, it is what it is. You know, it's much better than what it was for sure. You know, I just need to put some more, you know, the second coat on, and hopefully it'll be more uniform. One thing I screwed up on was, you know, I used the brush first to try to get in all the trim. There's a hell of a lot of trim on here, like little corners and stuff. And because of that, when it was time to roll it on afterwards, it ended up kind of uneven, you know. So, you know, that's my first time using it, so I really didn't know what to expect or how to do it. So hopefully on the second coating, it'll turn out, you know, a little bit better. I mean, it's still not bad. It's what I wanted, you know. It's that textured finish on there. I just wish that it would have been a little bit more uniform, but it'll be really tough, you know. And that's the, oh shit! Let's look at that. So I'm gonna have to cut those. I'll cut that with a razor. I'll cut it, you know, all the little pieces. I'll just wait for this to dry, cut the little pieces with a razor, and then apply the second coat on top of it. But for the most part, I'm happy with the way things are turning out. A little bit of touch-ups here and there I need to do, you know, but you can see it's very close to what my original color was. And I think if I read correctly, it kind of lightens up, so you know, it'll lighten up a little bit. Let's see, I put it on too heavy here. You can see these drip marks. Shit. You know, it's just the problem with this car is everything's just a flat panel, so gravity just wants to pull everything down. So I'll have to go, I guess, lighter with the coats on the second time around. But you would have never known that this thing was a freaking rust bucket, you know. It ended up turning out pretty good. So wait for the next coating, and then once I put all the, you know, the trim back on there and everything like that, it'll look more complete. But until then, I gotta wait. That's it. I'm done. I'm not gonna bother putting any more on there or playing with it anymore. I'm tired of this. I've been up for, I started at day 28 and it rolled into day 29 and now it's rolled into day 30. So I kind of like the texture. It's varied, I guess, in places, so it's not exactly the same kind of texture all around. So Monstaliner is really moody stuff. Anytime you do a roll-on application, it's always kind of hit or miss. But that's the final coat. So it ended up being more textured than I thought it was going to be, but we'll see. As it settles and dries, it kind of blends all together and becomes more of a softer appearance. So we'll see. I like how it looks, and my truck will be a lot stronger as far as going into bushes and things like that. I don't have to worry about it too much. Once it's all cured, and that's going to take 7 days for it to get to that point, and then it'll keep curing for all year long. So I think after a year it should be super tough, but after 7 days it's you can use it. So the texture, it's like you see, so sometimes it looks like a little bit small, sometimes it's a little bit smoother. It is what it is. It's still better than what it was, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't have to worry about it rusting either. So this stuff is super durable and also very protective. It's UV protectant too, so I don't have to worry about it fading or anything like that. It's gonna look, once it's dried, it's gonna look like that for basically forever. So I gotta pull off all the all these things and the masking tape and stuff like that, because I don't want the masking tape to dry to the truck. So I'm gonna get to work on that, start peeling all this stuff off, and then I'm done. So finally it's after 28 days the body work is done and the truck is coated, and I could leave it out for another 37 years and not worrying about it rusting. So that's the good part. Alright, I'm done. I'm going home now. Here's what she looks like without all the masking tape on. So I'm going to leave it in the garage here for a day, and then I could park it outside. I think they recommend 1 to 3 days. I'll read up on it just to verify. And then, start piecing it back together in a week or so. But that's it. So much tougher than than what it was, and you would never tell that I had all that body work done on it. All right, this is the end result. So I'll have to try to clean that off somehow. All right, time to go home. It's like 2:30 in the morning, or 3 o'clock or something. I have no idea. So I've been up for over 24 hours. Yeah, but pretty happy with how it turned out. It's a little bit sloppy in certain areas, like right here. I don't know what I could do to correct that. Maybe I'll use a razor blade or something to try to cut it down. I'm not sure. I'll have to just live with it, I guess. The hood turned out pretty good. I was removing the tape and a little bit hit on the hood, so it kind of messed it up because it's still kind of soft. But I can't complain. It's much better than what it was. And when I have all the accessories on there and stuff like that, it'll look really tough. So that's it. Zombie Hunter Day 28/29/30 is complete.